brethren, kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow.
Yes, my Straight Talk family, it's that time of the night when we can say greetings from the Straight Talk media and say good night St. Kitts and Nevis, good night to the Eastern Caribbean, and good night to the entire world, because we do have listeners all over the world, my Straight Dog family, and we are happy to welcome you to another edition of Straight Talk. And if you're joining me for the first time, Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free expression on all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, we do have a forum to express ourselves freely. And we, in the process, try to raise the level of national consciousness. We try to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I want to welcome you yet again to another edition of Straight Talk. And I want to, in particular, say hello to my Kittitians and Nevisian brothers and sisters in the diaspora, wherever you are around the world. There's some of you I know in Africa, there's some of you in Asia, there's some of you in Europe, and there are a whole lot of you all over North America. So I'm at liberty to say good night. I will say good morning, and I can also say good afternoon, because one of such greetings is applicable to the region in which you now find yourselves. And I want to extend condolences to a few people who have gone to the great beyond. I say condolences to the Blake family from right here in Bird Rock. I also say or send condolences to the Watson family in Old Road and the Hodge family in Old Road. I do understand that Steve Hodge will be interred tomorrow. I haven't really got information on the church, but our good old brother and friend and King Rockefeller would be interred on Wednesday coming. The service, I am advised, is at the Wesley Methodist Church. Then he will be interred at the Springfield Cemetery. My Straight Talk family, the observations are under review tonight, and it's a time when we highlight, the issues and do some reflection. We then ask a few questions such as what was accomplished and how has it helped others, what has changed since, and what can be expected. Also, what new have we learned as a people since we made these observations. And the first observation tonight, I want to recognize our elders in the community. On Saturday, we commemorated the International Day of Observance of Older Persons, 2022. And the theme for 2022, resilience of older persons in a changing world. And this is an excerpt from our young senator, Philip, and she had this to contribute.
I quite like this year's theme because it encourages as Kittitians and Nevisians. As we commemorate this international observance for older persons, I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate the 10 centenarians who are alive and well residing in our federation today. Specifically, we have 6 in St. Kitts and 4 in Nevis. I think that having this number of centenarians among us is a testament to the strength and fortitude of our identity and heritage as Kittitians and Nevisians.
Yes, 10 centenarians. It's demonstration of the resilience of our old people, our older folks rather, the strength and fortitude. And I believe we have been fortunate, I would say, that we have older people around us, whether they're family, they're friends, or just acquaintances. And the older ones in our midst are a fountain of knowledge, or fountains of wisdom. They are a continuous source of knowledge and wisdom, experience. And you know, we can go to them, they tell us the stories about way back when. And really in St. Kitts and Nevis, we should not be afraid to grow old, right? And our second observation, so we say, good health and strength to the elders in our community, wherever they are, even in the diaspora, we say, big up to all of them. And our second observation, we are still, the country still reeling, is still talking about the hypocrisy of our Prime Minister during his attendance at the United Nations General Assembly. Because Prime Minister Joe emphasized the support of St. Kitts and Nevis for the Republic of Taiwan, or the Republic of China, I should say, on Taiwan. And yet he had seated with him at the United Nations a Chinese national. And how important is this to speak about? Because some 51 years ago, on October the 25th, coming will be 51 years exactly, when the Republic of China, the official name for Taiwan, was formally expelled from the United Nations by a vote of the General Assembly and replaced by the People's Republic of China, the PRC, which had taken power in Beijing at the end of the country's civil war way back in 1949. And under Resolution 2758, entitled Restoration of the Lawful Rights of the People's Republic of China in the United Nations, that was the caption. And the resolution at the General Assembly is recalling the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, considering the restoration of the lawful rights of the People's Republic of China is essential both for the protection of the Charter of the United Nations and for the cause that the United Nations must serve under the Charter. Recognizing that the representatives of the government of the People's Republic of China are the only lawful representatives of China to the United Nations, and that the People's Republic of China is one of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. And the resolution continues, decides to restore all its rights to the People's Republic of China and to recognize the representatives of its government as the only legitimate representatives of China to the United Nations, and to expel forthwith the representatives of Chiang Kai-shek from the place which they unlawfully occupy at the United Nations and in all organizations related to it. And this was adopted on October 25th, 1971, and replaced the Nationalist Republic of China, Taiwan, the ROC, with the Communist People's Republic of China PRC as the sole representative of China in the United Nations. So going on to 51 years, even a student, no one from Taiwan, irrespective of their status, can visit the United Nations. Hear me. Even a student doing social studies cannot enter the gates of the United Nations. As a matter of fact, no one, irrespective of their status, is welcomed, or no one from Taiwan, I should say, irrespective of their status, is welcome at the United Nations. They cannot enter or pass through the gates. As simple as that. So for that reason, to include a Chinese national in the Prime Minister Zhu's official delegation, no matter what is said, to the United Nations General Assembly, yes, she was there. She was sitting right behind the foreign minister. It is just to an intentional lack of respect. It is to openly display contempt to the long-standing friend and ally in the Republic of China on Taiwan. Straight Talk has learned that the Chinese lady was invited by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but the head of delegation is or was Prime Minister Zhu, and he has an obligation to inform the country of this diplomatic blunder. If she was a guest, then she would have sat in the gallery and not with the Prime Minister. If she was a guest, she should have sat in the gallery and not with the Prime Minister. I will ask, who has control of the Prime Minister or the Labour Party?
If he did not give consent or he was not aware of it, as to who controlled the party, one, and the relationship between them, because I know some people, you're accustomed to power, right? You don't just give it up. Because it has created a buzz greater than maybe they expected.
And yes, and that brings us to the third observation, which is the relationship between the current and the former Labour Prime Minister, as this has continued to attract the scrutiny of many. I want to ask about that relationship. This is what the current Labour Prime Minister had to say.
What is your relationship like with the former Prime Minister, Dr. Denzel Douglas? He is part of the cabinet, and how would you describe your relationship with him?
My relationship with him is a good relationship. I don't think there's no doubt that I am the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. I am the leader of the party. On those things, there are no doubt. That has been accepted by our party, by my cabinet, and so forth, and generally by the people of the country of St. Kitts and Nevis.
No doubt, he is the Prime Minister. But there are suggestions being advanced about the suitability of the ministry or the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is a developing story in many quarters. And this is what our elder lady had to say.
But we have got to begin to take another look at the position of the Foreign Affairs Minister and the impact it will have on our diplomatic relations with other countries, given what we had before he lost election. I don't know why we haven't thought about it. There are other countries that have an interest in him, and the U.S., you know, they grab you when they get you, eh? So I am saying that the country should take a second look at the hold of that position, because up to now, no explanation has been given as to why for 7 years they denied him a visa and he's not able to travel. I don't know if he went to the UN, he could go any further.
Well, we don't know, and the country needs explanation. We don't know if he has a handler, because as I said before, the United Nations in New York is considered international territory, and there is a UN agreement with the host country, the United States of America. But we'll follow that story. And our final observation relates to the PAP and the peace programs. And they too are still under close scrutiny, as many pundits who question the commitment of the Jew Labor administration to enhancing or to putting a halt to these programs. And only time will tell my Straight Talk family as to where these programs will go under a Prime Minister Jew's Labor administration.
With respect to the peace, as I've said before, how it was administered, and I will say this, that it was administered almost as if one man controlled everything, and that was Len Harris.
I wanted to deal with the PAP first, my Straight Talk family, so let me go back to the clip I really wanted to play, and that is to deal with the PAP. But it still stands. There are many pundits who still question, and rightly so, questioned the commitment of the Jew Labor administration as relates to these social programs.
Last time we spoke about peace, the PAP, how much of a priority is that for you? Because I know that you said it needs to be reformed. Both
right.
Need to be
so
reformed.
the PAP needs to be reformed. We have found a number of abuses on the PAP. For example, people who qualified couldn't get on, and people who don't qualify are on, and that needs to be adjusted. And we have already started the work with that.
Well, my Straight Talk family, those are the observations currently under review, and we'll always keep you posted on these particular issues that are still confronting our nation. But tonight I want to focus on the cocoa in the sun and skeletons in their closets. I'm sure you've heard that old adage, that old statement before. And I, like many of you, no doubt, was raised by a grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother, Eunice Taylor Proctor Liburd, who always said in her own colloquial style that who got cocoa in the sun must always look for rain. That saying, I know for sure, did not originate with my grandmother, but however it came about, it still has a pertinent meaning today. And while I believe that the statement may be relevant or applicable to a particular issue, what I believe that my grandmother was saying, though, is that we all have our issues, and it is either one thing or the next. Life is not perfect. Every one of us struggles with something. In St. Kitts today, every single family must battle with their own issues. For that reason, the more time we spend dipping into or chatting about the business of other people, is the less time we will have to resolve our own issues. If we spend time looking at the neighbor's pot, for example, more than likely our own pot will boil over or it will burn. The world in which we live is far from being perfect. While the issue of the COVID-19 pandemic still exists, it is, however, not the only issue the world faces. Though not exhaustive, global challenges remain, such as racism, climate change, hunger, poverty, and armed conflicts. Famine, disasters, and calamity impact both the lives of those we know also the lives of those we have never met and we don't know. Nations around the world produce beauty, but they also produce great pain. The people around us are far from perfect. Greed and selfishness prevail in every society. Prejudice and misconception harm relationships, while hatred and contempt have resulted in terrible circumstances from time immemorial or from the very beginning of time. The current Jew Labour administration seems to be struggling with the present situation in the Federation and the real issues facing the people, such as inflation and the economy, especially in critical sectors like energy, water, transport, food, and shelter. Though it is early days, the country has reason to be terrified, to be afraid of the future under a Jew administration. I walked into town today, and the same complaint here from everybody. Nothing is happening. Concerns have been raised, for example, about the plans to address climate change and creating new employment opportunities in the renewable energy sector. Concerns have also been raised about the way Prime Minister Drew fumbles with or fabricates his responses to straightforward and important questions like this one, my Straight Talk family.
In an interview I had recently with a local economist, he said to grow the economy and to create opportunities for people, transfer of wealth and all these things.
Yes.
Have you begun crafting a developmental plan for the economy?
We started even before the elections. For example, I spoke of an economic council. I still have that economic council, and we have formalized it. So yes, the transfer, the wealth aspect that he's talking about is important. We have to find ways to make sure that our people can grow wealth, and can pass that wealth on to generation to come. So those are some of the things that we are looking at, and the Economic Council is in place, and they would have met twice since, and they're going to meet a third time as we put that in place and the strategy of implementation. So I would say that that started even before the elections.
Can you say who are some of the members of the council?
Well, once we formalize it, they met twice. We are formalizing it at this time, and then we will make that public. We are now moving very strongly. We have an economic council. We are moving very strongly on that front to make sure that we receive the necessary investments to continue and to build on what we have here in St. Kitts.
So it's either fumble or fabrication. The question is whether there is a development plan, and according to Prime Minister Drew, is there an economic council? The other question relates to MOUs that were signed. Is what Prime Minister Drew said.
We are looking at our investment portfolio, and it's looking good thus far. We have started meaningful discussion. We have signed MOUs and so forth, and we'll update the country as these are to be implemented. So I will say that it looks good in terms of the opportunity for investment.
Well, if the Jew Labour administration has signed MOUs, MOUs are memorandum or memoranda of understanding, and if they have signed these MOUs that commit the country, why are they kept a secret? Is that transparency? But let us take warning. The Jew cabinet has cocoa in the sun, and we must never allow them to mislead us. If the Jew Labour administration is genuinely committed to pursuing the interests of the public, then transparency is essential for the maintenance of integrity. To paraphrase the old saying, if you do not have cocoa in the sun, then you do must worry about the rain. If you do have cocoa in the sun, rather, you must worry about the rain. I submit the direction in which the Jew Labour administration is heading, if they do not divert, the country will experience its worst nightmare, as they are acting like farmers who have their cocoa in the sun, but they are not preparing for the deluge of rainfall that constantly occurs as a result of climate change. More so now, because of climate change, we have to always look for rain when we have cocoa in the sun. Since the installation of the Jew Labour cabinet, some of its members have launched scathing attacks on the civil service, on some public servants, and even on some private citizens who provided public service. The Prime Minister himself and his chief legal advisor have openly led the charge to personally destroy one family and perceived associates of the former Prime Minister who brought the country from the brink of bankruptcy into profitability. Yes, I repeat that. The former Prime Minister Harris brought this country from the brink of bankruptcy into a state of profitability. They have both introduced a model of partisanship that provides a motive for biased reasoning, ignores the rules of natural justice, that demands the right to hearing. Minded about the 70-30 rule, politicization and public embarrassment undermine the rule of law will be the order of the day and is worse than going to prison, according to his Attorney General, who had this to say.
I might be publicly embarrassing some people into prison. I'm contemplating whether I should do that, and I'm minded more so about 70-30 to embarrass some people who might not have been corrupt, but were, I don't want to use the word I used earlier, but not very friendly towards our treasury, and I'm not going to tolerate that, and I'm going to embarrass some people. I might be publicly embarrassing some people, which might actually be worse than going to prison. I'm contemplating whether I should do that, and I'm minded more so about 70-30 to embarrass some people who might not have been corrupt, but were, I don't want to use the word I used earlier, but not very friendly towards our treasury, and I'm not going to tolerate that, and I'm going to embarrass some people.
He called it the treasury rapists. But the question is the 70-30 rule also being employed by the Prime Minister as well? You ask that question, my Straight Talk family.
To the piece, as I've said before, and what we have found, there were how it was administered, and I will say this, that it was administered almost as if one man controlled everything, and that was Len Harris. Respect to the piece, as I've said before, and what we have found, there were how it was administered, and I will say this, that it was administered almost as if one man controlled everything, and that was Len Harris.
But you ask the question, my Straight Talk family, did Prime Minister Drew consult with his permanent secretary or with his national advisor? Did he consult with his permanent secretary of national security or his national security advisor as it relates to the peace program? And if not, why? Because the last report Straight Talk got from the national security advisor, Major General Saunders, it went like this, my Straight Talk family.
The strategy involved started on the referred to, as you know, as the peace initiative. We started, first of all, with approximately 70 persons involved, and that quickly blossomed over time to some 800 persons today. We offer quite a number of opportunities for the at-risk groups. Project development, business opportunities, they can access loans. A lot of them are into apprenticeships at this particular moment in time. They are the normal work routines, learning trades, and for obviously educational opportunities and the like. Persons who have been on for some time and who have accessed these opportunities have now started to move off the program to take up or to spend more time in the actual business venture that they have adopted.
And that's coming from Major General Saunders, the National Security Advisor, whom I'm told is not being consulted. So my family, there is cocoa in the sun, and no one is looking for rain. But since the general election, there is another factor or turn in our political direction that can be determined, that can determine rather the destination of our beloved country, St. Kitts and Nevis. People have already begun to examine skeletons in the closet of newly appointed Labour government ministers. And those skeletons in their closets will no doubt influence a certain outcome that would further divide us as a people and a country. As we speak, the Minister for ICT, the Honorable Congress Maynard, and the sister of his father as his permanent secretary, both traveled to Romania to participate in the ITU Plenipotentiary Conference. Is this a recipe for nepotism? Or is there nepotism or not? The Honorable Congress Maynard is also the minister. He is also the minister responsible for energy. And many are asking whether there will be a resurgence of the Speed Tech Energy St. Kitts Nevis Limited. Will we see nepotism expanded as well in the area of renewable energy? These are skeletons in the closet of some.
I'm a citizen of St. Kitts. I've grown up in St. Kitts, but I've always been in St. Kitts. So I don't understand where nepotism could be associated with this. Whether or not I am involved, I just don't understand what they're talking about. I don't understand what is the accusation, really, on Lincoln Maynard with respect to anything that the government is doing with respect to its renewable energy program.
Well, my family, now that the son is the minister responsible for renewable energy, we are going to watch closely and see whether there will be a re-emergence or resurgence of the Speed Tech St. Kitts Nevis Limited. The skeletons will soon come out of the closet, as the previous Douglas Labour government, of which Prime Minister Drew, Attorney General Wilkin, Deputy Prime Minister Hanley, and Minister Maynard are all inheritors of the Douglas Labour government that ran the treasury into the ground. This recall forced the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to announce the previous Labour government's inability to pay the interest on government bonds. Prime Minister Drew's predecessor, Labour government, nearly bankrupt the National Bank, and one may ask, who was the CEO of the bank? Remember Prime Minister Drew? It reached to the point where your cabinet colleague, the Right Honourable Denzil Douglas, Dr. Douglas, forfeited 1,200 acres of crown lands in a swap for the unprecedented mismanagement of the treasury and a national debt that ballooned to nearly $3 billion. The statements made thus far by Prime Minister Jew and his Attorney General are contradictory, clueless, all over the place and unfocused. There are some firms that have been responsible for going after so many poor people who could not pay their mortgages. So let us wait and see what they are going to say and do about the Christoph Harbour and the US $25 million owed to National Bank and do not want to pay. Is Prime Minister Jew and his Attorney General going to tolerate that? And the US $25 million of SIDF money that was handed to them as a loan that Douglas promised to write off. Is Prime Minister Jew and his Attorney General going to tolerate that? The SIDF loan was US $16 million, but with interest and other things, it's now worth $25 million US dollars. Then there is still the unpaid Kitchen Hill loan of $16 million US dollars, a loan from the SIDF. Is Prime Minister Jew and his Attorney General going to tolerate that? There are also loans to Kitchen Hill by National Bank. Kitchen Hill's indebtedness to local institutions is around $30 million US dollars. Money given to Kitchen Hill on the labor. Is the Prime Minister and his Attorney General going to tolerate that? The St. Nevis Labour Party was up in arms over 40 layoffs by TDC because they were unvaccinated. Whose legal advice was TDC following to lay off those 40 workers all at one time? And now, the Jew Labour Administration takes up the people's money to make a gratuitous payment. Whose advice is the PM and his cabinet following? Who is fooling who? We may ask ourselves. The Attorney General's office published some contract details of a poor boy from Sandy Point called Stasio. Why don't the Attorney General's office publish the amount of money spent to build a tinning fence, a galvanized fence at La Valley in Sandy Point? Publish that too. It is early times and early days yet in the life of the Jew Labour Administration. But I have witnessed its incompetence and hypocrisy. Fool people, make them think they have a plan. Yes, they have fooled us and made us think that we have a plan. Their only plan is to piggyback on the performance of Timothy Harris, who rescued the country from the land for debt swap and national debt midonki. Harris left hundreds of millions of dollars in the treasury that they are now flourishing all over the world, traveling as part of their frequent flyer club. But take warning, Prime Minister Jew, as you and your cabinet got cocoa in the sun and skeletons in the closet. That's my story tonight, and I'm not going to change it. But I'm going to open the lines and entertain your calls. I'll entertain your emails as well. I always like to implore you, my Straight Talk family, as I go to the lines, to respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned. Let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. Let us ensure that the things we say and or do will be beneficial to all concerned. And in doing and saying those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. Straight Talk always presents the truth. There is no democracy without truth. And we know that there is no truth without controversy. There is no progress without freedom. And there is no freedom as well without progress. My Stray Dog family, the time is 15 minutes before the 8 o'clock hour. I entertain your calls and entertain your emails. Remember, the numbers again are 646-829-6672 or 869-663-6672. The email address is straighttalkpatches@gmail.com. Let's get it again. Straight Talk Patches, that's one word, STRAIGHTTALKPATCHES, long word, all the lowercase, one word, @gmail.com. Remember, my family, it's your program as well. You may want to also include some issues that I may not have raised, but without you, there's no Straight Talk, and you are at liberty to raise those issues as well. Now, again, I'm saying there is cocoa in the sun and skeletons in their closet. We have taken a particular approach, my family, and we have to address it, but we're not going to back. We're going to stickle for the truth and ensure that we stand firm and talk nothing but the truth. My family, there is a plan. Many will say that it is a young government, but we have to guide them. We ought to guide them in the right direction, my Straight Dog family, else we are all going to be in trouble. This email reads, "Good night, Mr. Liburd," and is telling me about a link that has been forwarded to me for my scrutiny at my convenience. I remember a caller mentioned about Caribbean islands, switching relations, China versus Taiwan. I wanted to educate myself on the matter, said this lady, but I believe now Taiwan has moved from 22 alliances down, I think, to 13 or 14, of which we are a long-standing supporter of that particular country. Patches, a number of us PAM, NRP, PLP, and CCM supporters read this email. Attended the recent independence celebration in New York organized by the Labour government of Dr. Drew. Everything was going well until this infamous political prostitute started singing lustily at the top of his voice for his supper. And in the presence of the Prime Minister, as we proceeded to be photographed with Dr. Drew, the prostitute shouted, "I hope you vote for Dr. Drew next time," and many more insulting words he hurled at us, despite Dr. Drew's hand signals for him to cease. But his abuse went unabated. That's this email. We'll get back to the other emails. Let's see if my lines are working. The numbers here again. 663-6672 and or 846-829-6672. Those are the numbers, my Straight Dog family. Again, the local number 663-6672. The numbers, the lines are open, rather. See if we do have, yes, we do have our connections. Yes, we do have all our calls. Again, the numbers 663-6672 and or That should be 646-829-6672. That's the overseas number, my Straight Talk family. And if you're just joining us, again, we are looking at the cocoa in the sun and the skeletons in the closet. Let's take this other email in the meanwhile again. Mr. The Groundless show last Friday proved how biased and one-sided they are. So many things they could have commented on, like Dwyer's commentary with Chinese businesses or business with Chinese business woman, the UN, and with virtually all the ministers on a honeymoon joyride with their cronies overseas. Boy, they did not touch that with a 10-foot pole. How could they, when one is so overjoyed with his new advisory post, despite the fact that he was very disgruntled, beg your pardon, when he was overlooked for the Governor General's post, a position he was campaigning long and hard for. Poor Sam has been overlooked again for that post. And my family, as we mentioned that, I know as well that there is a move by this activist. We don't always agree on some of the things that he says, but this activist made mention, and this is trying to say that we should not continue with the prison project, is what he says, my Straight Talk family.
It is my belief that the people of this land do not want Galaxy to build any jail for us. We do not want Galaxy to build any houses for us. We want Galaxy to finish and open the Ramada, create jobs and economic opportunity, respect and hire local people, and engage in contracts with local providers of goods and services. Finish the Ramada. We don't want you to build a prison for us. We don't want you to build houses for us.
Well, truth be told, he can talk till thy kingdom come. The prison project is on its way. I don't know about the houses, but my family, the project continues. No matter what you hear them say or said, no matter what they said about the actual project, they all jumped on the bandwagon, and they are going to continue that project irrespective of what you've heard them say, my Straight Talk family. But that's the nature of politics, no doubt. They have no other project, so what they will do, they will jump on the bandwagon. You hear them talk about the Basti High School, they'll build a Basti High School. You hear them talk about water, even the Prime Minister talk about water with Bede. Bede, you'll never find water in this country. Bede don't extract water, they extract something else. What they have extracted for sure is a lot of money from this government. They have not found any water. But my Straight Talk family, as we continue tonight's programming, as I said to you before, you may have just joined us. There's an old saying which goes like this: who got cocoa in the sun must always look for rain. My grandmother always said that. And ironically, my grandmother made chocolate. So it was a real practical and physical lesson for me. You will patch the chocolate, I think that's what they call it. You'll shell first of all, you'll have to put your cocoa to dry in the sun. Then you patch it, and then you shell it. It's good to shell it when it's hot, because it's easier to shell that way. Sometimes when I came home, ran away and came home late, was because I didn't want to shell the cocoa. And it was more difficult that time because then it is soft and it will prick you in your fingernails. But the time is 5 before 9 o'clock. I'll go to the lines and I'll say, caller, you are live. Good night.
Good evening, Patches.
Good evening, my dear brother. How art thou?
Oh, I'm cool, I'm good, but I miss my brother, Rock.
Yes.
And this go ahead.
No, you go ahead. We all miss him.
Yeah, this program miss him too.
True.
He's well missed. A lot of people tell me that they miss him. Yeah. You know, Rock was one of the best bullseye shooter on this program.
True.
Never bob on wheel and duck. Anyway, gone to the great beyond until I go.
Yep.
And my sympathy goes out to Rosa. I think Rosa William down at camps. Tamika's mother.
Okay, she's died. Okay.
Yeah, she passed this week.
Okay.
And also Steve Hodge and all those who pass on in the Federation. Now, let me say this, Patrick. The good book which the Bible tell you, the wise man built his house upon a rock, and the foolish man built his house on the sand. And the wind blow, and the rain come, and the house and the sand tumble down. Now, I've been in the Statue of Liberty up in America on the 4th of July. I don't remember what year, but anyway. If that statue there with the height of that, because you could actually stay almost anywhere in America and see it. If that there was on a sandy foundation, it would have done tumble down long time. Because it took me and who I went with there a couple hours well from basement to reach up in the crown on the statue head. And in the hot, I said, the amount of people was on the steps going up. I said, brother, if this thing wasn't properly built, it would have done tumble down. So, what start bad can end right. It might look right, but then there's a cost to get it straightened out. I heard you play a clip there with the Attorney General saying that he don't want to call some people corrupt, but they wasn't friendly with the Treasury. But what that mean? Indirectly, if you're not friendly with something that is legal, well, what that mean? He ain't corrupt.
We call him.
So when you gonna say he don't want to call them corrupt, but they're not friendly with the Treasury, he put in him out.
We call him Treasury rapists.
Right. Okay. Yeah, he put in him out. And he need to cool and his blood is too hot. He seemed like he got the blood of a lion. He talking like he got vengeance against people. That is not the way to go, Mr. Attorney General. Be humble and do your work professionally. Everybody expected to do their work professionally. Don't go in there with hatred for your neighbor because you become a police now, you run in and you're going to bang him up. It ain't so you go. When you humble more people like you, when you boasting and you fall, everybody say, aha, take that. Now another thing I'm going to switch pan. That is we have a problem here in this country with monkey. And that's been going on for years. I remember when I was a little boy going to school, Buckley's had 2 mountain rangers and they had short jacket with long sleeve with the color of a monkey skin. And the closest that we could see a monkey come down to lowland was up Alavis. You know where Alavis estate is?
Yes, of course.
Right, and then you would hear the talk, boy, a monkey up Alavis, a monkey. No monkey riding pan dog back in village. Monkey and dog a friend. Dog don't bother go after monkey now. So we want to know what the minister or the Ministry of Agriculture is going to do about these monkeys, because people cannot afford to be spending the money to buy seeds and slips to do the farm. When you go up the next morning or 2 days after, everything pull up and rample down. Monkeys. But you see what happened? Some years ago, a boat coming over Frigate Bay on the Atlantic side, a steamer, and then the mates them and whosoever come off the boat in a rubber dinghy and they come ashore over there. We don't have no custom office over there. We don't have no immigration over there. So right away, they did something illegal, and they should have been charged. But we know what they're coming here for. They're coming here to threaten our government. That was the former Labour government under Dr. Douglas. And tell them if those people don't rise university, do not stop doing what they're doing to animals, what they would do to our economy. But they're coming wrong and they want to control us. We got to control ourselves. We can't let nobody out there tell us we can't do this. The monkey them, yes, they are our national animal. But the population now is overpopulated. And they need to be eliminated to a certain small number of population. I got more to say, but I'll come back.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. It's a very important point raised there. It's a perennial issue. I think that's the right word. It's been around for a long time, and how and what solution, the best solution we have for those monkey or that ever-growing monkey population, only time will tell. But it's something again, challenge for the new Minister of Agriculture, who seemed to be quite anxious to carry out his portfolio duties. But it's 9:02, my Straight Dog family, and again, the lines are open. The local numbers are not local number. If you are so minded to call, is 663-6672. That's the only access to the program. The only access to the program via telephone locally is 663-8672. Yes, we welcome the Win FM radio, but the calls are coming to this studio, my own studio. It's 663-6672, and overseas it's 646-829-6672. Those again are the numbers. 869-663-6672 and or 646-829-6672. You can access us via our email address as well, which is straighttalkpatches@gmail.com. In the event you've just joined us, we are looking at the cocoa in the sun and skeletons in the closet. And as I said before, life is not perfect. Every one of us have struggles, or every one of us struggles with some issue. We struggle with something. And as I said, coming up with the grandmother, she always said, and in her colloquial parlance, in a colloquial way, who got cocoa in the sun must always look for rain. And when we try to establish the meaning of that old saying, and it is pertinent today, but I believe the statement is applicable to a particular issue. And what I believe my grandmother was saying, and our elders were saying, is that we all have issues. It is either one thing or the next. As I said, life is not perfect. Every one of us struggles with something. Between this thing is the next thing. In St. Kitts and Nevis today in particular, every single family must battle with their issues. We spoke earlier about the armed conflicts. And there are armed conflicts all over the world. And one that's been raging for several months, it's the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Russian president has annexed Ukraine land. But the fallout from that has impacted the supply chains, has impacted food supply, has impacted energy supply, and in fact it has in the long run impacted us. And instead of spending time dipping into or chatting about the business of people, is the less time we'll have to resolve our own issues. And that's going back to the meaning of the cocoa in the sun and looking for rain issue. And I submit once again that the world in which we live is filled with so many complexities. It is filled with so many uncertainties and so many unpredictabilities. The issue of COVID-19 still exists to some extent. But it is not the only issue that we face in the world. There are global challenges: climate change, hunger, poverty, famine, disasters, and calamity impact all of our lives. It impacts people we know and people that we do not know. But at 5 or 7 past 9, we go back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Good night. You could hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. How art thou? It sounds like Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, a lady meet me and tell me the best prime minister gone away. America, Canada, and England. If they don't want him and cheat him out while studying him, he could go anywhere. He did not go with no money in his pocket. Nobody looking for him. If they're going to pay people for COVID, they're going back to work, the same place, around people, it will be unfair. So, but I hear they turn away 68 people just over 1 month. They must eat bread in their country, and it's weather time. They have a family. Don't bring back 20 years badness, bad things about. Mr. Liburd, talk the things. Don't stop talking. Happy birthday to Lady May. Please, thank you. Have a good day. A good night.
Have a good night as well, my dear Alice in Wonderland. And that's another issue, the issue of victimization. I cannot confirm as just being advanced that some 68 people have been fired, but I'm not surprised if that's the figure. But would you believe it that there are some people in this country who are saying that Dr. Drew is taking too long to fire some people? What kind of heart do we have? You know, it's so sad that we seem to have this revolving door. This revolving door. It opens, it shuts, someone comes in and another one gets in. And we do the same old thing. It's like we're going back. Like you get the feeling that we are going back 20 and 25 years. And it's my turn now. You had your turn, so it's my turn now. So when Labour is in office, the PAM and others won't eat. But said PLP, the new kid on the block, seemed to be the one that should not eat at all. And when you look at it, what's happening, you ask yourselves, where do we go from here, my family? Where do we go from here? Because the climate change, results of climate change, the storms that hit the countries all over the world, and God forbid it will hit St. Kitts someday, they do not discriminate. The storm will take everybody's roof off, rich and poor. So why can't we come together, my Straight Talk family? Nations around the world produce beauty, but they also produce great pain. And as I said, greed and selfishness prevail in every society, yes. But prejudice and misconception harms relationships. Well, let's go back to the lines, caller. It's 9:11.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Patel.
How art thou, my dear? Okay, we've lost that call. I haven't heard my friend for a long time. I'm sure you'll get back in. But yes, prejudice, misconception, misperception, they all harm relationships. Hatred and contempt result in horrible circumstances. And this has been happening from the very beginning of time. And yes, you'll want to say that the life of the administration is young. Some people want to give them a honeymoon. How long must that honeymoon be? But we'll get back to that, my Straight Talk family, as I go back to the lines at 9:12. Caller, you live.
Mr. Patrick.
How are you, the Bible man?
I'm fine.
I haven't heard you for some time. I thought about you. Are you in a state of good health?
I'm sick with my foot.
Oh, you're sick with your foot? Okay. Well, you can get a bicycle, man, or a chair, a wheelchair, a scooter. But things are well.
Well, what I want, you know, they got some socks to put on your foot, keep your foot cool and yeah. Then I understand they in this age, so I wonder if
I think I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If I get prepared, then I'll be all right.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'll make a note of that. I will see. I'll just see if I can get someone.
Okay. Mr. Patrick, you ain't have to frighten what's going down. And nobody. Mr. Patrick, I am 73 years of age. 73. And you know who love poor people. Now, Mr. Bradshaw have a Labour government. And Mr. Bradshaw love poor people. Well, me ain't calling nobody else's name. But I am going to tell you what the word of God says. Blessed is the man
Consider the poor.
who consider the poor.
Yes.
In the time of trouble, the Lord shall deliver him. I'm going to give it I believe 2 or 3 more parts of scripture, and I'm going to have it on. Mr. Patrick, In Psalm 8, God judged the righteous, but he angry with the wicked every day. Mr. Patrick, God is called out to Cain and ask him, where is thy brother? Are you using the word of God tonight? You know, you not else. And I'm going to when I feel like going to be able. Cain bus talk. My brother's keeper. Now, God send the rain. And it just. That means every jack man supposed to eat. But Mr. Patrick, it's going to be a judgment day. And some people is going to talk to God. And God is going to tell them, I was hungry, and you don't feed me. I was naked, and you know really clothed me. I was sick, and you look after me. And you're going to really want to tell the Lord. And the Lord is going to say to you, as much as you really do to the least, you do it unto me. A large passage, two more passages to talk about. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth,
so shall he reap.
that is the alternative. People, Mr. Patrick, when things happen to them, they say, Obia, people do them this. They don't know they don't own handwriting. And the last passage of scripture I'm going to tell you. The heart are deceitful and desperate wicked. Mr. Patrick, if you're not gonna know you know hard for your fellow men, how you gonna look after them? If the Bible says that, I said it, but this is one. In 1 John chapter 3, verse 15, it says, whosoever hated his brother is a murderer. So you can't be hating people and doing what you want. But God in high heaven, they're going to come when you're going to put in your hand and you're going to regret it. Mr. Patrick, have a pleasant night. I'm going to go down there. See you.
Have a pleasant night as well, my dear brother, the Bible man. I've not heard you for some time, but good to know that you are in a state of good health, and good to know that you can still bring that biblical perspective. And when you spoke about the judgment day, I think the good book says that each of us must appear before the judgment seat of Christ, and it just may be recompense for the things we have done. And before one, you cannot call any witnesses. Caller, your live is 20 past 9 o'clock.
Patrick, good night.
My dear brother, jam down. How art thou?
I'm fine, Patrick. I just want to highlight one or two things a critical interest, especially in the tourist belt. I want to call on Honorable Marshall, the Minister of Tourism, to focus on the Pelican Mall. Because the bathroom them is terrible. Today I felt so bad as a critician. Watching tourists going in them bathrooms, and it's terrible. We could do better than that. And Marshall is doing, and I want to do well, and I ask you now to take a look at the Pelican Mall downstairs office, and let me get this bathroom fixed. It's terrible. And I as a critician, I don't play with these things, you know. And I ask the young lady, get up and let it dust off. And all these non-progressive behind you, please, because I know you're a performer, especially if Daniel in your back court, please let me do better.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. Always very assertive, you know, highly patriotic. And you're so right, you know. The former Minister of Tourism of 7 years, or some may thereabout. I told him personally about those bathrooms, and he did absolutely nothing about it. And I recall one day when his permanent secretary and the then CEO of the Tourism Authority, in a boastful way, said they had a bank of bathrooms, new bathrooms, down at the Pelican Mall, or in the Pelican Mall area. And I asked myself, how could they construct bathrooms so quickly? And I made it my business to go down there, because I do feel embarrassed as well when I see bathrooms at the ferry terminal, at the bus terminal, and in particular, there at the Pelican Mall, where so much people traffic in terms of tourists that come straight through from the ships. And when I recognized, I was taken aback when I saw them had a bank of porta potties. Imagine that. I was so embarrassed. And what it takes to fix a bathroom. And that's a good request, and I have no doubt that the young minister, Honorable Marsha Henderson, would heed that call and put that feather in her cap and give not just the tourists, but many people use the Pelican Mall. Go to the National Bank to buy stuff in the shops there. Local people I speak about. Go to the liquor store, and they need access to those bathrooms as well. So you are so correct, my dear brother. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello,
yes, Patrice. Yes, Patrice. I'm here again. Now, I wish that people could learn to respect people in office. Whether you're back in Marshall or not, respect the lady's work and her office. Yeah, Patrick, let me go now, let me go. Let me turn on this radio here because I'm getting a feedback, sorry. Yes, I'm here again now, let me go. I was asking that people would respect those who are in office. Because whether you're supporting them or backing them, yes or not, they are there to govern the country. And if you love your country, you will respect who is in office. Now, let me go back to 1971 to 1974. I walk up Higgs and Hill, operating the biggest machine up there besides the crane was the scrapers. And ever so often, Now and then you would see a jeep come up on the site. CN 1496. And when you look, they go in the crew where they want to go. When you look, you see a man walking, going down the road. And my pit supervisor is from over the side here, Mr. Big William. He was the director of the square, was in the pit. And when he see that he chop it one in the ear, he said, there goes another one. As long as you were a PAM, you wasn't allowed to walk up the airport. But if you was a labor, even you ain't know what you're doing, you could walk up there. That is how we used to be in the 70s when we started the airport. And then after that, come along the line, no more turning away. I can't recall Dr. Douglas turn with nobody. I cannot recall that. I don't know if it happened. And then Dr. Harris went in office with unity. And a lot of people used to tell him, them labor people up there work there, this will work there, and you not do them nothing. And you know what he used to say? Everybody from the country, everybody have to eat. You can't do that. Don't bother with that. Leave that. So that is the comparison between good and bad. So I am asking this administration, if somebody is doing their work and they're doing their work properly without offending anybody, leave them. Don't turn them where they're doing their work. Whether they back the devil or they back Jesus. Please, if somebody refuses to work, then you move them somewhere and put somebody who wants to work. Come to the toilet now. That is, you got people just worthless and nasty. Some people go in the toilet and they use them, they say, oh, let the government pay people to clean that. That is not the attitude. That is against people's health. You go in a toilet, you make it clean, leave it clean. Don't dirty it up and come up with the nastiness, but let them pay people to clean it. No, the people who cleaning it, they're exposed to germs too. So what do you mean? Every time somebody go in and come out, the cleaner must go in and see and then wipe off and this and that? No, people are supposed to trust themselves. And let us move the country forward. That is, I want to know if the Attorney General going to investigate the green tin in fence down Cranston. And how much it costs. And who get the money. And also the desalination plant and the generator down La Valley. And it's 13 years now since the giddy upness went on over there by the giddy upness. How much did the broke nose man pay for that? The piece of land over there. That piece of land, they could have been in agriculture or housing. People over there need houses, and they could have been doing agriculture. So I hope that the Attorney General investigate that piece of giddy up land over there. Because the elephant now, the whiteness and wash off, it's turning back black. That is, you cool out so long, I'll come back if anything there to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well, my dear brother. Always grateful for your interventions. It's 9:29. If you have just joined me, my Stray Dog family, we are looking at the cocoa in the sun, and the administration has cocoa in the sun, and they do have skeletons in their closet. But let's go back to the lines. Caller, you are live. Hello, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Liburd.
Good evening, sir.
And good evening to the listeners home and abroad. Carl here.
Oh, you're my brother.
I'm not doing so bad for my age.
Sound like you're on the animal farm.
Well, speaking about the animals, that's what I come to talk about.
Okay.
I am proposing to the Labour government again, and I propose it to Unity government, and I am proposing it to Labour again. We need a local zoo.
Local zoo?
Yes, with all local animals. Patches, it will be something very unique, and it will be something totally different to all the other Caribbean and maybe South American islands. That our visitors, guests, returning nationals, and all visitors alike, when they reach to St. Kitts, just like how they would say they want to go to the beach, they want to go to the hotels, we will be hearing they want to visit the local zoo. Patches, and it will create lots of jobs, and it creates lots of benefit for citizens and non-citizens alike that are living here and paying the contribution. A local zoo is something very unique. We should take up on that and have a unique site to visit besides Brinston Hill and the beaches and the hotels and all the shops and things.
Carl, I like your suggestion, but just for the benefit of our listeners and our viewers, though, tell us some of the animals.
Yes, I'm right here.
Tell us some of the animals that you'll have in the zoo that would attract people.
We have our local animals, no imported animals. Just our local fowls, donkeys, horses, sheep, goats, pigs, ducks, rabbits, guinea pigs. You name it, completely local. Some of the local dogs, the local parrots, and all those things are completely local because remember, all these tourists left the destination to come to get what local culture and cuisine you have to present to them.
Okay.
And we are overdue and longing for something different. They keep asking, many years now I hear the tourism industry, different ministers keep asking for ideas and something unique. And I gave it to the old labor, gave it to unity, and I gave it to labor again. We need a local zoo. We have too much stray animals knocking around. We could take these animals and put them and feed them and make a local zoo.
Okay.
Listen, we will make a lot of money locally and foreign dollars, because everybody come, they come for whether weddings, funerals, anniversaries, you name it.
Okay.
People keep coming on for different events and things, and it would be very nice that a lot of these local animals is put and taken care of in a local zoo, which brings us finance that we so need. And then you would have other islands following. Let us set the trend.
Okay, my brother, got you loud and clear. So the authorities have been given some food for thought again, but thanks for your input as usual, Mr. Brown.
Yes, man.
Thanks a lot. Coming from your own particular perspective there, suggesting we have a local zoo. Very interesting, my straight up family. Let's go to the lines. Call you live.
Hey, Patches, you're doing a very good job. Keep it up, Patches. Keep it up. You're good live,
I'm trying, my brother. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Keep it up.
Yes.
Doing good work.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah. Okay, have a good night.
Have a good night as well. Thanks for your intervention. Let's go back to the line. A caller. Hello, caller. You're live.
Hello, Patches.
Hello.
Hello, Patches.
Yes, you're live.
Patches.
Yes, Jamno, you're live.
Somebody else on the line.
Somebody else on the line.
Hello?
Yeah, you go ahead. I'm hearing you.
Okay, Patches. Do we know why I highlight that? This afternoon I felt so bad.
you know, because we had a character in the bathroom while some tourists was there, and if I know $1, if a person have it, whoever there, man in that dollar must let them use the bathroom. But we gotta take this thing to the another level. We can't let that the man looking like how it looking, and we saying tourists. We is big around the Caribbean in tourists. And we gotta go better. Because John will speak, you know. I will speak. No patches. Your contribution around here, if you ever get the chance to be in tourism, I know where it happens. I know where it happens, you know. You performers are asking every minister to try and take a leave out your book. Because I cannot fail. You have done something in this country as a minister where we never see yet. What I see here.
Okay, we seem to have lost your jam down. Perhaps you need some energy in that phone, a little top up in that phone. But thanks for the commendation nonetheless. It's 24 before the 10 o'clock hour. We're on the uphill side of 10 o'clock. And this email reads, Patches, why are we so surprised about the AG's attack on Stasio? The family background of the AG believes that only them must have money in St. Kitts and all other black people are subservient. That is the mention of that family. Let's go back to the lines. A caller. Yes, caller. You're alive. Hello, caller. You're alive.
I'm here again. That is it there?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Carl. I like your idea, boy. That's a good thing. And also jam down. That is what we want on talk show programs. People have ideas to help push the economy of the country forward, not pull it down. The country is all of us own. And if we have any ideas, all we have to do bring it forward and let the ruling administration look at it, and if it's beneficial to the country, then they will go with it. But you know what would be a good investment? Right on Timothy Hill, we have a tramway from on top of Timothy Hill, come down on the strip. I know for sure that would bring some economy in the country, and a lot of people who do business over Frigate Bay, they will be portrayed by these people who come here and want to just go up on the tramway and come down. Like they have one in St. Thomas down at Nelson Mandela Circle. I don't know if you ever see it.
I can't recall.
Okay.
I can't recall him, yeah. Tell the truth.
All right. I brought up that there some years ago, and it hasn't come to no fruition. But I'm bringing it up again tonight. That would be a good investment for whosoever decide to construct that. And that will help our country's economy. Anyway, have a good night, Patrice.
Thanks a lot, my brother.
Until we meet again.
Till we speak again or meet again. Thanks a lot for your input, suggestion about a tramway. And at 21 before the 10 o'clock hour, we are looking at the issues that face us today. And when we spoke about the issues as it relates to the cocoa in the sun and the skeletons in our closet, we were actually talking about the issues that face us today. And we do have many issues. And Yes, the Jew Labor administration is young, it's new, but they ought to have come prepared because the country was at a particular level of development. And there's no excuse that you're there for 2 months or whatever time. You should have come up and running. Because in fact, in opposition, you are considered the alternative government or the alternate to government. So you'll have your shadow ministries, you'll have all your candidates ready and prepared to serve. And you must come with and demonstrate your competence. I'll get back to that at 29 before 10. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Amen to culture. What Jamdong was saying about toilet, your opponent, pastor, politician who leave God for money was on the radio saying all the school toilets want cleaning since 10 years ago. And those, his party was on 20 years. Any cleaning should have done by them. Who he want to get at. Culture just tell something. You never used to culture was saying something, you know, used to take him on. He would not have been there to say nothing. Culture they come in to do. Don't give them no idea. They come in to do what they want to do because they're the best. But they can't beat Timothy Harris, the best Prime Minister. And Bonus don't call me phone. What one say, I say. Good night. Have a good night home.
Have a good night as well, my dear. Yes, the administration ought to have come prepared, but it is struggling. It is struggling with the present situation in the Federation and struggling to deal with the issues, the real issues that are facing the people, the bread and butter issues, inflation, and the economy, especially in critical areas like energy. To come and say that the generators were old, yes. If the generator was 30 years old, or is 30 or 25 years old, 25 years back from now means you had it 20 years, or almost 20 years in your administration, your former administration, and did nothing. But we never had these issues under my watch. But there are alternatives. The alternative is renewable energy. Why, for example, Prime Minister Drew, you have decided to proceed with the construction of the prison? And I understand you put on hold a project like renewable energy. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yes, Mr. Liburd, Carl Brown here again.
Yes, Carl.
Yes, I would like you to play the clip of the gentleman from the water, I think supervisor, and his claim was several weeks ago that they couldn't provide enough water for a number of areas in St. Kitts because there was not enough rain. Well, Mr. Liburd, we have more than enough rain now, and water is still being shut off in number 8 constituency and the constituency of the Prime Minister. Now, you know that has been a bothersome and a worrisome for a number of governments. And now that the Prime Minister is from that constituency, we hope to see that water problem alleviated in the next to distant future for those citizens and residents of constituency number 8. My surprise is, with all those rains in the last few weeks, water is still being locked off just up to weekend gone there in a number of areas in constituency 8. I mean, there could never be the excuse now that enough rain ain't falling. So why is water still being shut off in that area while rain continuously coming? We are having lots of water going into the ocean. We having the ground overflow with water, lots of puddle of water all over the place. So why is it now rain is coming? Because the excuse was enough rain wasn't coming and enough water wasn't there. Well, we are supposed to have more than enough water now. With all these rain we have coming, so why water is still being shut off in the same troublesome constituency number 8? I would like to hear the excuse of the water department now.
Well, it's not as simple as that, as some rainfall. I mean, we have a lot of underground sources, and it takes time for the water to, use the term, percolate underground and go into the system. When it goes into the underground, into the system, then it has to be pumped and back into the wells, pump the wells, into the reservoirs. So it doesn't overnight solve the problem. If you look at the problem over
no, I am not.
Yeah, but you have to look at it over an expanded period, right? Because, for instance, we've been having a rainfall deficit, almost 55% or 50% deficit in rainfall, and it's over a long period. The annual rainfall figures will show that. The only solution to it really is desalination. That's the only solution, no matter what they say.
And also build more catchment in those areas, because one of the things I'm looking at, which I always speak about many years on this talk show, the large increase of building means it's a large increase on the demand for water.
That's true.
So we are also, while we are building all these hotels, condominiums, guest houses, normal people houses and rooms and things, we also need to build catchment and increase the water production in these areas. Because it don't make no sense that you're building and you're developing and then you're boasting and saying construction is booming. But is the water flow to these sites and these homes booming also? Are these people going to be out of water for 3 days, 2 days, because you don't have enough water, you don't have enough catchment? So you know what you need to do. We need to build more catchment in these areas, what we locally call as reservoir, those things. Because we all know, everybody knows, the demand in the construction is high and it is increasing tremendously. So you know the need for water have to increase tremendously also. That is the way I'm going since the start. Again.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. You've made the point. Valid points, yes. And I'm sure the engineers in the water department would actually differ with you in some areas. But since you asked since you requested, because we here in the Bedrock area, I'm sure as I speak, my water is locked up, and that has been happening now for months. This is what Cathy had to say.
The reason they're not getting water is because the tanks run empty. And the tank run empty because we don't have enough to supply them. Like as I said earlier, we don't have enough to supply this area, Bedrock, Frigate, Southeast Peninsula, Half Moon, for 24 can't continue pumping the aquifer like business like normal, like we used to do before. Because we reach a safe hill where we have to pay really close now, because we reach like very close to brackish water, what you call salt water. You consider it like salt water. And if we pump that water all the time, it will mess up the aquifer, and the aquifer will be messed up for like a lot of years. It will take a long time, a very long time, so it could replenish itself. All of this is because we're not getting enough rainfall. That's the only source where we get rain from right now, water from right now, from rainfall. The only other option the government will have to do pretty soon is go into desalination. And then that could solve the problem.
The only option, as you said, is to go into desalination. And yes, some rain is falling. Is the rainfall enough? Do we have enough inches of rainfall that can solve the existing problem? And I don't think so. Yes, the idea of catchments is a great idea. I think we have heard that before. We should dam the water. But if you dam the water, it needs treatment. And like I said to somebody, I'll say, no, there's a lot of water underground. Lots of water underground. But it's what is called brackish water. It's not water that it's not potable water that we can consume. So it will have to treat that water, and it's expensive to treat the water, and of course to then put it into supply. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Mr. Liburd, when I don't have anything to say and anybody call, I'm going to say after them. If they're talking about water, here in Maxnoid have some hard pipe with master they put on. And when children go to the pipe, they can get the pipe locked. And it's overbearing. I call up the water department, nobody's studying me. So, water just be running. Sometimes me have to go and lock it up. I kind of hearty. I don't know what they put it on for, because they did just get on. So they was, me don't know what.
Is it hard pipe? You mean the standpipe?
Yes, the standpipe, but they cock them in the whole thing. She did take them off and put on some kind of thing when you twist. Like you could lock it into hole. So you could lock, but the children can't lock it. So they just go to the pipe, wash the foot, wash the face, do all kind of things. Even big people of food, they don't take the time and lock the pipe. And I live by one, and I don't call up there, and nobody taking me on. So the water must race, and they're going to run out. The water going to run out, and no water going to be there. But it's just hard for me to see that happening, and water lock up at night. Thank you. Anybody call, I'm going to talk what they say, because I don't have nothing to say.
Okay. That's what Straight Talk is all about, my family. It's 6 before the 10 o'clock hour as we wind down tonight's programming. And yes, there are real issues. There are real issues. And the current Jew Labor Administration must tackle these issues and find solutions to them. There's no excuse. There's nothing about your new government. We need solutions. Caller, you live.
Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Patrick.
Yes, Jam Down. How are you?
Patrick, the pipes them put you and see it happen to some children. The pipe them hard to turn off. The pipe them hard to turn off. So when the children go to the pipe and use the pipe, they can't get them turned off. That is, if the foreign nation is the way to go, let me do it. Because we got to get this thing right. You know? Since you were there, you were talking about it. Money in the kitty. Let me get it going. And go to desalination. We need it.
Yes, my dear brother. I've been talking about it for a long time. I I took it to the cabinet and it was agreed in principle, whatever that means.
Yeah, but they need to get it over with, Mr. Liburd.
Yes, you have to.
We need everybody to get water. Because petition, this is one thing we like with skin beard, you know.
Of course.
When you see the sun go down, petition, want the skin beard.
That is so.
Have a good night, Mr.
Have a good night, my dear brother. And Carl mentioned the hotels and supply and demand. And a very important point he raised. But I wonder if he ever considered, any of us consider that Marriott has its own desalination plant, and so too does the Park Hyatt. Could you imagine if those two hotels were on our system? What? We'd be locking off for days and giving preference perhaps to the hotels. But fortunately, they have their own desalination plants. And the demand for water has increased over the years. And let's stop wasting time. Let's stop, talking about the cost of desalination is high, and you carry up the cost of water. Nonsense. You can solarize a desalination plant. By that I mean provide solar energy for these plants, and the cost of solar energy is down and down. But my Straight Talk family, my time is almost done. And I've said earlier, for those in particular who have joined me late, that the world in which we live in is far from being a perfect world. The issue of COVID-19 or the COVID-19 pandemic, no matter what we say, it still exists. But it's not the only issue that the world faces. There are global challenges such as racism, climate change that deals with the effects of climate change as we have reduced or impacted our water supply, as we just spoke about. There's hunger, there's poverty, there's armed conflict, famine, disasters, and calamity impact both the lives of those all around the world, people we know, people we don't know. Nations around the world produce beauty, but also produce great pain. And the people around us, even here in St. Kitts and around the world, are far from perfect. There's greed, there's selfishness, and that prevails in every society. I think it was the Bible man, John, who spoke to the issues as it relates to Psalm 41, and I thought I would read an excerpt which says, and I quote, "Even my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. But you, O Lord, be merciful to me and raise me up that I may repay them." The prejudice, misconception is what harms relationships. While hatred and contempt have resulted in terrible circumstances from the very beginning of time, my people, the current Jew administration is struggling with the present situation in the Federation, is struggling to face the real issues, the bread and butter issues, is struggling to face the issues such as inflation and the economy, especially in critical sectors like energy, water, transport, food, shelter. Go to the supermarkets. The costs of food seem to rise every day. People need homes to live in. The rental cost goes up. There's no water. The cost to travel, the cost even to buy gasoline goes up. And though it is early days in the Jew administration, I submit tonight that there is reason for us as a country to be terrified of the future under this administration. Concerns have been raised, for example, about the plans to address climate change and creating new employment opportunities in the renewable energy sector. What is the administration doing? The groundwork has already been laid for a 16 or 35 megawatt solar farm, the largest solar farm in the entire Caribbean. What has been done about that? Concerns have been raised, but the Jew administration and the Prime Minister Jew himself, he fumbles or he fabricates his responses to straightforward and important questions, like his development plan. He talks about an economic council that was formalized even before entering into office. But what is the composition of this council? It's a big secret. Everything is a secret. He spoke about MOUs he have signed. But what are the MOUs he have signed and with whom? That too is kept a big secret. So let us take warning. The Jew cabinet has cocoa in the sun, and we must never allow them to mislead us. If the Jew Labour administration is genuinely committed to pursuing the interests of the public, then transparency must be essential for the maintenance of integrity and good governance. To paraphrase the old saying, if you do have cocoa in the sun, then you must worry about the rain. The direction in which the administration is heading, if they do not change that direction, the country will experience its worst nightmare, because they are acting like the farmers who have their cocoa in the sun but are not preparing for the deluge of rainfall that constantly occurs as a result of climate change. More so now, because of climate change, we have to always look for the rain if we have cocoa in the sun. Since the installation of the Jew administration, some of its members have launched scathing attacks, and the Prime Minister himself has done that. Have launched scathing attacks on the civil service, on some public servants, and even on some private citizens who have provided public service. The Prime Minister and his chief legal advisor has openly led the charge to personally destroy one family and their perceived associates who brought the country from the brink of bankruptcy into profitability. Prime Minister Harris did that. We cannot dispute that. They have both introduced a model of partisanship that provides a motive for biased reasoning, ignores the rules of natural justice, that demands the right to a hearing. Minded about the 2030 rule, politicization and public embarrassment undermine the rule of law will be the order of the day, and it's worse than going to prison. That's what they said. So is the 70-30 rule being employed by the Prime Minister as well? Did the Prime Minister consult his National Security Advisor and his peers when he spoke about the peace program? My family, there is cocoa in the sun and no one is looking for rain. But since the general election, there is another factor or turn in our political direction that can be determined, or that can determine the destination of St. Kitts and Nevis. People have already begun to examine the skeletons in the closet of the newly appointed Labour government cabinet. And those skeletons in their closets will no doubt influence a certain outcome that would further divide us as a people and divide us as a country. Look at the Minister of ICT, who has traveled with his permanent secretary, who is the sister of his father. Look at the minister. We'll look at his energy development, renewable energy development in particular. The skeletons will soon come out of the closet, as the previous Douglas administration, of which PM Drew, A.G. Wilkin, and DPM Hanley and Minister Maynard are all inheritors. Remember that administration ran the treasury into the ground. My people, the statements made thus far by Prime Minister Drew and his AG are contradictory, clueless, all over the place, and unfocused. My Straight Talk family, as we wind down tonight, all I wish to say finally, and say now, that it is early days yet in the life of the Jew Labour administration. But I have witnessed its incompetence and its hypocrisy. They can fool people, make them think they have a plan. Their only plan, my people, is to piggyback on the performance of Timothy Harris. That's the only plan that they have, my Straight Dog family. Timothy Harris rescued the country from the land for debt swap. Harris left hundreds of millions of dollars in the treasury. But take warning, Prime Minister Drew, as you and your cabinet got cocoa in the sun and skeletons in your closet. That's the way we're going to end it, my Straight Dog family, because my time is done and I've got to run. I want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight, and as always, I want to thank you, the callers. I want to thank you, the emailers. I want to thank you, the many viewers on Facebook and on YouTube, and the many listeners on Win FM radio. God's willing, I'll come your way on Thursday for another edition of Straight Talk. So until we connect then, be good to yourselves and to all whom you meet. And remember that whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you must believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye until we connect on Thursday.
The morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night. For the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceives, that I will achieve, you better believe. I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good.